Why? Why oh why did it have to be like this? There is so much that is wrong with this, and I am very sad that I'm here saying that. You wanted to disappoint me, Netflix. Well, here I am. This could have been the saving grace, but instead, it might become the beginning of the big downfall. I'm here to dive into why The Gray Man was a bit of a lazy, uninspired action flick that cost $200 million. So strap in. This is going to be a bit of a negative one. 3 years ago, one of the greatest movies ever made was released. It was directed by none other than Joe and Anthony Russo. They decided to make another movie, Cherry, which got mixed reviews. Then they announced they were coming back to make another big boy film with the same writers from The Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. Basically the 4 best movies of the MCU. Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. Legends. Russos. Legends. Except none of them were so legendary this time around. What do you get when you combine 2 insanely famous actors, the directors and writers of a few of the biggest movies ever, and $200 million? Apparently, a giant, mediocre mess. By the way, that's not a joke. This movie cost 200 mil. 200. And it looks like this. Let's talk about that. The Gray Man is a political thriller based on the novel with the same name by Mark Greaney. It is very much a movie that is trying to have it all. Now let me just state this before diving into the flaws of the movie. I do not think this is an actual bad film. It has its moments, and a lot of its aspects make for an enjoyable spy movie that you could just turn off your brain to watch. The issue is, The Gray Man isn't really trying to be that. This is a movie with major political themes that takes itself pretty seriously, and that's one of the major reasons why it fails more than movies like Red Notice and Six Underground. Because these were movies that were by design made to be as loud and as stupid as possible. Brainless spy films for your eyes to enjoy. The thing is, The Gray Man is by all means better than these two. There's no doubt about that. But the disappointment is still there, because it lacks the substance. The Gray Man is a movie with big ideas, but without the prowess or intelligence to push through and explore these ideas. That's why I can't just push it off as another brainless fart, and I feel like I gotta show off my thoughts. But before I do that, I'm gonna need you to like this video. That's an order. Thank you. Now this movie has a couple of major issues I want to discuss, so let's dive into them. Number 1, the story. This is a major problem here. Normally it wouldn't be, but this is a movie that wants you to think it is very plot heavy. But let's talk about this plot. The Gray Man essentially revolves around a protagonist only known as Six, who was recruited by the CIA around 20 years ago from prison to become a ghost, a nameless assassin who kills bad guys. Of course, he later finds out that most of what he's doing is the CIA's dirty laundry, blah blah blah, nothing we haven't seen a million times before. But that's still only the beginning of the movie. Now that Six has killed one of his own under direct orders of Denny Carmichael, his boss, he steals the necklace the CIA was looking for and goes on a quest to find out what this whole shtick is about. So now he's a rogue agent, and this Carmichael guy is pretty bad news, because the whole thing is about him and his dirty secrets, essentially. So, feeling desperate, Carmichael calls one of his old Harvard buddies, Lloyd Hansen, and oh boy is he crazy. Lloyd Hansen is a complete sociopath, a guy who was fired from the CIA itself after only 6 months for being too extreme. An all-out torturer madman who now works in the private sector and can do whatever he wants, basically. So Carmichael asks him to go look for her and find Six. There's a little girl involved that is the niece of the man who recruited Six, which brings on conflicts of interest and a bit of stakes to the thing, but that's about it, basically. Six on the run, Lloyd after him. Now there are a couple of problems here. Never mind that this is a totally unoriginal premise with almost no creativity. Other than that, an important thing to note here is that Carmichael is supposedly the main bad guy. The flash drive contains dirty information about him, and a bit about Lloyd too, but he doesn't really care. So when I tell you that Carmichael is completely absent from the movie throughout Act 2 and is essentially replaced by Lloyd, you should be concerned. Nothing is really explored about Carmichael in the movie, and in the end he becomes a background character, I'm of the opinion that Lloyd Hansen should have been a lone wolf, an assassin like Six, who works on his own. That would have made the dynamic between the two work so much better. But of course, Lloyd is a rich guy with a big team of mercenaries that is essentially Carmichael 2, but crazier. The thing is, this should work for the movie, at least in concept, because the movie has ideas and themes about class. You know, Carmichael, Lloyd, and Carmichael's assistant or something, who shouldn't matter at all, by the way, and I don't want to talk about how dumb her character is. But you know, these three, they're rich people who studied at Harvard and were born with a silver spoon up their ass or whatever. Six comes from a rough life, a tough upbringing with not a lot of bright spots. But again, as I said before, the writers are too lazy with it, so these ideas are never really explored, and you sort of forget about it. Which is why I think Lloyd Hansen should have been a lone assassin. It would have at least made him a different character than Carmichael, and not just a replacement for the second act. Add to that the fact that their character writing is very surface level, especially for Lloyd, who all we know about him is he's crazy and weird with no backstory whatsoever, or Six, who yes, at least has some sort of backstory to him, but he's just the same character in the beginning and in the end. His arc revolves around, I guess, getting over the murder of his father, who was very tough and abusive on him and his brother, which is why he went to prison and had to get pulled out by the CIA and basically get in a different type of prison with them. But again, none of this is really part of the story. It's just little things that get a segment or two here and there. It's really unfortunate with it all because Chris Evans totally brings it as Lloyd. He is the highlight of the movie, no doubt, despite the fact that his wackiness does become a bit cartoonish at times. Ryan Gosling was fine as Six, but the little girl was pretty great. I don't remember her name, but she was good. Carmichael and Suzanne were completely useless in the movie. I don't understand at all the whole flip with Suzanne's persona at the end where she becomes all big evil for 2 seconds before both her and Carmichael get destroyed. This movie would have definitely benefited from a smaller cast. It was a bit too crowded. The cinematography and directing was okay. I mean, the action scenes were pretty good at least, and that counts for something, I guess. That reminds me, there is no fucking reason why this movie should have been released on a streaming service. This movie would have worked a million times better on the big screen. But anyway, that's about all I have to say for it. It's fun, it's enjoyable, the pacing is rough, and it lacks a lot of substance. That's it. Watch it, don't watch it, I don't really care. The important thing to me is that you watch this video next. See ya.